Hi, Paul. This is Vaughn. What's your ETA? 10 minutes? Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll see you then. Yeah, he'll be here in 10 minutes, so I just want to wait for him to get here.
I did not notify anybody. It was put onto our website, it was put in the post office. People that have signed up for the emails from the town through the website for like meetings of the week would have received this. Based on one of the emails I received, I was told no, that the information that we had not to release it. So.
Do you know what the current bid is for Great Bay West?
I should grab that.
$229.
I'll grab it.
I don't think I have it. Thank you. Doesn't want it.
$397.5. $397.50.
Oh, okay. With diamond dust or something?
It is. The 3 days. Okay, it was easy.
So she's looking forward to taking a break. Yeah, and make some money. Right now she's up for biology, chem lab, chemistry. She's she bought sales right next door. She got a scholarship to Simmons. She got this just came through. It was right next door. It was COVID. Simmons. And she didn't have a lot with Simmons, so she and she also
Yes, and what else?
For her school year, and I know she's like in the she had a little place because she had what was open. She just needed to send her transcripts and then and she said, you know, I'm really
Okay.
It doesn't say anything, but I'll forward it to everybody.
She said,
After a couple of years, she said, She does better in smaller situations, smaller classrooms. She tends to trip. She needs
Now it's gonna go ding, da-ding, da-ding, da-ding. Yeah. You'll just, yeah, that one's right.
They're not as sensitive. They're not as sensitive in smaller classrooms. They're going to say, hey,
I don't have my data. I can't tell the difference between that and something also for work.
Equations that are very similar. She studied one, it was the wrong one. She thought she studied the right one, and she just got the wording wrong. And so she did all the equations with it, and she said, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
She's like, she'll have it. I'm like, I'm thinking, I know, I'm like, I'm thinking, we need to say something to the professor, because it's not gonna.
Take the railroad ties, we
She would say, okay, let me check the equations. Yeah. She knew she had, she knew equations. She knew them well, but she studied the online, and it was more of a.
make out with a, I was make out with the blue room up there.
There was her
With the ruts on the baseline.
It wasn't that bad.
No, I never went to look at it. I never had a chance to get up there.
I had me and Will just pushed it off the field for the time being.
Good.
And got it out of the way. But when I walked it, as soon as they walk on it, they go right back.
Oh, perfect.
It wasn't bad at all.
Oh, good.
I did notice one sprinkler head got broken. I don't,
yeah?
it wasn't from him though. I saw it, the top of the head's on the ground, so we know there's one broken there. Castle Field is complete right now. So I'll tell the irrigation company, all the water tank, all the
that's right, yeah.
They moved the faucet so you can get to
Oh,
it.
spigot, good, yes.
Came out nice.
Yeah, better to have it.
So everything there, and they put it up on the wall in a drip pan so the condensation shouldn't rot it.
Awesome. Excellent.
Yeah, they got down about 3:15. It looks nice.
Enjoying her social life, and she's.
I miss him. Do you know how the tennis nets work? You got a little brass handle,
Yes.
you crank, they miss it.
The handles?
Yes. They were in the shed on that top shelf.
Yep.
So I called up yesterday and asked if I could just buy the handles. Take a guess. One handle.
123.45.
Actually, you're not bad. 145 for a handle. I go, no. I says, I'll buy a wrench.
Yeah.
And the handle just disappeared.
It was up on the shelf. They really cleaned the shed out this fall. I'm hoping they didn't throw it out. Somebody comes up with it. We stripped that shed apart looking for it. But all you need is a wrench. I can't justify $145.
Are you feeling better? Better? Are you feeling better?
Oh, yeah, thanks.
They were saying
Yeah,
at
Paul's
the
been next
zoning board
one,
meeting. They said at the zoning board meeting, oh, we felt so bad, he was so miserable.
That was Tuesday, this is Friday, I think.
Hey, Chester, I gave Sharon all those keys and locks. So they got, I said, everything's labeled on where they go, what the combination is, and the bag with the keys are all labeled individually.
Perfect.
So I said, do what you want with them. I
It's
said,
in her hands now, good. Good.
And the only thing I'm waiting for from you guys is, I remember I questioned the shed roof about the scoreboard.
Oh, yeah.
You haven't heard anything on what they wanna do?
So you just call them,
All
and
right.
they open the gate and you park.
Because if they want a scoreboard up there, you gotta reinforce the roof, of course.
Right,
Because
right,
it
right.
mounts to the roof. I mean,
I'd like to see if we get a scoreboard donated. That was Pepsi. I mean, that was keeping score when I was a kid.
yeah, it's never been changed.
No, I know.
And of course, Pepsi ain't even around.
Yeah,
It used to be
yeah,
original.
right, right.
You know what'd be nice? I wonder if Bluebird, is that one more town? I wonder if we could get them to donate with their name on it. Yeah.
I got a hook there.
You know somebody in there?
Yeah.
Right now, they're pouring $1 million into their building. There's not a lot of, like, we're not open yet to have like revenue or anything.
You know who owns that?
Yeah.
They got revenue. You got two buildings, one in Rochester, one in Manchester.
But there's one off
It's Planet Fitness anyway.
yeah.
They have money.
But Bluebird has got some. I've gone by them up near the,
What's it, Manchester area?
no, actually, towards the Orthopedics. there.
Rochester.
Yeah.
That's at East Ross.
No, it's not Rochester, it's on some back road, it's massive.
202.
No, this is a different route. It's up north further.
Up front. That means they got 3 buildings now.
When you drive by them, it's like, is that much money in storage? I mean,
Oh, yeah. Time and space. It's nothing more.
It's easy to,
Well, this one down here, I think, is gonna have like exotic cars and RV parking.
That's Big Bricks, and a friend of mine owns a place over in Kensington or someplace, just for automobiles.
Climate control.
It's 6 feet, it's got a weight.
it's expensive. Your cold storage is good money.
And I'll wait till tomorrow.
No, I have,
Kind of changes things.
oh, that, yeah. But I haven't heard anything.
The fact that it is my opinion. Opinion factor. Listen, the fact that it is my opinion, that doesn't sound right to me.
Right.
Opinion is not fact, it's opinion.
Oh, definitely.
There it is.
So Karen, are you all packed?
Oh, yeah, big deal.
Are you all packed?
Almost packed. My husband's driving down, he's leaving at 6 AM and he's gonna take my stuff with him so I don't have to do the plane with it.
Okay,
Good afternoon.
thank you everyone, sorry I'm a little bit late, but
Okay. Did you, before we
children
begin,
unavoidable.
I know, and I'm babysitting at 6 with my grandchildren, so
Yes.
it'll be great. This is an email from Tim on the top.
Okay,
The first page is the proposal that the board has seen.
Yep.
The second page, 2 additional options.
okay, are we on, Vaughn?
we are, oh, we are.
Yes.
Okay, wait a minute, well, maybe
Unless you turned it off.
I may have turned it off now, hold on.
Don't trust him.
Make sure you tell Charlotte on there it was Vaughn that did it.
Yeah,
Is the numbers going up?
this is flashing back and forth.
What?
Yeah,
Yes, we are on.
yeah, okay.
Okay. Can't go by those lights, I just got.
I know, because they go all the time, but.
It is now 4:40 in the afternoon. I'd like to call to order a special meeting of the Greenland Board of Selectmen with call to roll starting to my right.
Vaughn Morgan?
Chester Duraki.
Paul Sanderson.
Jim Rolls.
Chip Huzzy.
Thank you, everyone. We're here at a special meeting to try to come to some temporary resolution with regard to Great Bay West, which we know suffered some additional damage in our most recent heavy rainstorms. I know that in the meantime, we've had not only concern from the residents, but we've obtained some additional information. Vaughn, if you could tell us what you did with Verasa Construction.
Right, Karen and Paul and I went to the site of the damage, and first thing I did was to get Paul to put some lights up there, because to my way of thinking, if somebody's driving there in the dark of night and try to avoid one of those potholes, I think they go off the road. I think the road is severely damaged on both sides. It's being eroded away down by the first culvert there. I think that's probably the most dangerous spot. So I had Barassa and Jonesy go out and, give me an estimate of what it would cost to repair it. Haven't heard anything back from Jonesy, but so far we have heard back from Barassa, and we have that information in front of us. I also contacted our fire chief to ask him whether or not he could get a fire truck over there in an emergency. And he said he'd rather not. He would do it. He said if there's a dire emergency, he would do it. But he would fear losing one of the trucks. He doesn't think the road would hold it. So, so I called you, asked for this meeting here tonight so that we could rectify the situation. My main concern is safety all the time. So I don't think the road is safe. It needs to be taken care of.
Okay. Another piece of information that we sought, I asked Karen to be in touch with Underwood Engineers because they are the ones who are handling the permitting for the project through DES that would provide the ultimate repair there. I received a call from Tim Noble this morning, who is an engineer at Underwood. Now, understand, I was in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, so this was a telephone call. What he told me was that he had not gone out to the site, but he had reviewed the photographs that had been provided by the residents. We talked about options and the fact that our permitting is nearing its conclusion. And so their recommendation, after looking at everything, was that what we should do is provide very temporary repairs in the sense of repairing potholes, and that we should do nothing further until the permitting process was complete. And their reasoning was that were we to undertake a repair such as, and we'll go through the details with Barassa, but if we were to undertake a repair such as they're talking about, the first step to the construction of the real project would be to take and grind that up so that it would be there just for the very temporary period that we're talking about. Secondly, they would be very concerned about installation of any new structures in the sense of culverts that were not exactly in accordance with what had ultimately been approved by DES for permitting purposes. So we might have to take that work out and lose that particular value. So that was the basis of their recommendation, because we are so close to having a decision on the permitting process that we're going through. So we have that option. We have the option regarding our engineers. We have this particular option. One of the other set of considerations that we have to live with is the fact that we have 16 feet of width to work with. That's it. If we go outside that 16 feet of width, we are trespassing. So other facts to consider.
I'm sorry, I'm not thinking on the site.
I was going to say, the chairs do as well as the road.
That's just how much I like this chair too.
I think we're all reacting the same way.
This chair is weak.
Proceed.
Okay, so before we begin our discussion, does anyone have any other options for us to consider other than what we have thought of? At least I'll start with the board first to see if anyone has any other options they want us to talk through.
I have one, a hypothetical, but let's make it a hypothetical. Let's say that we did own that road, that was a town road. What would the obstacles be then?
If we had a normal town road and we had a failure of a structure like a culvert, then we would be able to go in and do an emergency repair and get an after-the-fact permit from DES to legitimize whatever we had done. However, in that circumstance, most of the time it would be an in-kind, in-place replacement. In other words, an 18-incher fails, an 18-incher goes back. Here, what we're talking about is a significant difference between what's in the ground and what our proposed permit and plan from the engineers would call for.
Okay. Will we have any issues with property owners on each side of the road if we own that road?
If we owned a normal right-of-way, no.
Okay.
Because in a normal right-of-way situation that had gone through a planning board, we would have 50 feet of width to work with, not 16. The pavement would be 20 or 22 feet in a road of this type, and we have plenty of room on either side to accomplish our construction repairs without going outside of the right-of-way.
Okay.
But that's not the case, correct?
Well, here, we only have 16 feet.
It's not the case, you know, as far as, my big thing is I still really don't know who owns that road, whether the town owns it or whether we own it, all right? It's a big question. Reading the history that I've seen, we have 3 previous town attorneys who say that if this was to go to a court of law, that more than likely we would own that road, all right? My concern is if it ever gets that far and there's an accident in the meantime, we would be held liable. And I think it's, it's something that concerns me. Not just the safety factor, but the liability that town could be facing also. So,
The general rule in that regard is we're never a guarantor on any road that nothing will happen. Whether it's a state road or a regular town road, a perfectly constructed, brand new, accepted last week town road, something bad could happen. So we're never a guarantor that nothing will happen. However, when we are advised of something that is a dangerous condition, our duty is to warn, which is why what you did by putting out barricades and lights was exactly the right thing to do. Temporarily, but I mean, it was exactly the right thing to do because at least there's a warning there that there's a condition.
Okay, all right.
With that in mind, I know members of the public would like to speak. And sir, would you
Just have a question. Stuart Bauder, 21 Strong's Landing, which is off of Great Bay Drive West. Mr. Morgan, you said hypothetically, what if? Hypothesis means kind of wishing or whatever. Over the last 10 days, reviewing documents that Karen has been supplying to Dave Wellowitz, per whatever the request procedure is in the protocol, it seems like this thing has been fixed in place since 1993, and to the point where some questions were asked about further information. What I'm reading in his emails is that Karen has been told to stop saying whatever, and it was directed by somebody to stop the discussion at that point. My question is, who asked for that, and what don't they want us to know?
Okay, that was me.
Oh, okay.
And I simply said to Karen, when you're responding to a right-to-know request, you respond to documents. Now, what Dave was asking for was certain types of legal conclusions, and I thought it was inappropriate for those types of conclusions. You're absolutely entitled to every document that we have, absolutely, but not necessarily to have any of our folks, any of us, or any of our employees coming forward and rendering conclusions on things that are contested. That's all. You're entitled to every piece of information we have, but not necessarily entitled to opinions from me or anyone else.
As a layperson, but as a citizen of the town of Greenland, which I think is a very nice place, it just seems like we've been reinventing the wheel time and time again. And in private business, you'd be fired for letting things drag on generation after generation. So either the town owns it or they don't, and it's either black or white. There was a wonderful movie a long time ago, Robert Redford and Paul Newman, I think called The Sting. And they used to kind of rub their nose like that, meaning the fix was in. I'm wondering, did we do something wrong over on Great Bay Drive West? I mean, have we alienated people? We show up every day, we go to church once in a while, and we pay our taxes. Is the fix in to make this thing go on forever? That's just my opinion.
In 1993, there were 26 roads that were, this is Leonard Schwab speaking, Great Bay Drive West. In 1993, there were 26 roads accepted by the town two of which were Great Bay Drive East and Great Bay Drive West. So the town accepted them. In 2015, a deed was recorded from the Brackets to the town, giving the town the dirt under the road. I don't know what can be clearer than that. I really don't know.
I would agree with you on the latter point about the dirt under the road in the deed. I have 16 feet to work with. I can't fix this with 16 feet to work with. And
You
there is,
need a new deed from the Brackets?
yes,
Why can't you take it by eminent domain?
Yes,
Yes, that's my
yes,
question
yes.
too.
okay, that is another option. But
I think it's a necessity, I'm sorry, I don't think it's an option.
no, I'm just saying, it's an option because what that requires is that requires finding a public good. Obviously, you folks would be saying, we absolutely have a public need and a public good here. It requires us to create a layout of a road that would be wider, and then damages would have to be paid to the Brackets.
So why wasn't it done 10 years ago, 20 years ago, if that's the right thing to do?
Well, it is a way to do things. We've been trying to do it through negotiations. Negotiations have failed. Now, if we were to do that, there is a procedure for eminent domain that you have to go through, and it means litigation.
Well, somebody's gonna be litigated, so you might as well pick and choose which side you wanna be on.
Well, yeah, and probably what we would do here in order to handle this for good is we wouldn't have something that's 16 feet wide. We'd have a right-of-way that's 50 feet wide, because that is a standard town right-of-way if someone were coming in to the planning board seeking to subdivide land.
I doubt that the DES would hear that.
It's not up to DES. Eminent domain has nothing to do with them.
No, you go 50 feet, you'll be in the water.
Not if we go inland. The road does not have to stay where it is. No, if you want us, no, this is a very good discussion. If you want us to consider eminent domain, okay, to set this up as a properly engineered, properly reviewed town road going through the planning board, it would be 50 feet wide. We have subdivision regulations that say exactly how that road in fact should be engineered and constructed.
Why would it have to be 50 feet through an eminent domain process?
Well, no, what I'm saying is that if you want this done the way any other road in a subdivision would be done, any other town road, something that the people would be accepting in perpetuity, it would be done that way. And you can look at our zoning ordinance, you can look at our subdivision regulations, and you can see exactly what a properly constructed town road consists of.
Short of becoming an adversarial situation, why not have a meeting of all the minds, including the town attorney, all of the residents, and the Brackets, and the selectmen, and the planning board if necessary, and lock everybody in a room till they get the result. But seriously, rather than have an adversarial situation, try to meet a middle ground, and do it soon.
And I would be very happy to participate in such a meeting. However, the key party here, because they hold the property interests that are in question, are the Brackets. If they would participate in such a meeting, I'd be more than happy to participate in such a meeting.
I think the answer is call the meeting and see what happens.
What I can tell you, and Karen, what have we done with Peter Laughlin recently with regard to that?
He has, and I got an update from him today on that, because I had not followed up with what you had, on one of yours that you had told me not.
I think you sent that to Paul too,
I
didn't you?
did, I sent it out to everybody just a few minutes ago.
It's hard, that's why I haven't read it. Jim is giving it to me to read.
All right, it just came through.
So are we saying that every road that was on that 1993 list that was taken over by the town is 50 feet wide?
I'm not saying that at all. One of the things that you would also have to take a look at is whether that document in fact worked in acceptance. And that would be a disputed legal question, whether that document did what it purported to do.
Okay, so forget about that document. Is every town that's a town road 50 feet wide now?
No, a good example would be another one that is not as Great Bay East. I'm trying to think of some others that may be narrower. There is Tide Mill Road. Tide Mill, yeah, all parts of Tide Mill.
Yes.
Yes. Both on both sides of Route 33.
Right.
There is, trying to think of some other areas. There is a Class 6 that is off of Maple Drive that is actually not constructed at all. That's 50 feet in width, but it's not constructed. Trying to think any other areas.
Some of the hillside meadow ones were built at 40, and the regulations might have been 40 at that
At the
time.
time.
So I guess my point is, why do we have to go to 50 if we have other towns, roads in town that?
Well, that wasn't the question I was trying to answer. When we were talking about eminent domain, I said, if you wanted us to start an action to create something that would be an ordinarily accepted town road, that's what it would be. There is no requirement that we have to do that. However, whatever is done, in order for it to be accepted, it has to be accepted through the planning board. And so it would be a job to convince the planning board that there was some reason to go some width other than a standard town width.
Well, by common sense. That'd be a good reason. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
We've been,
Can we get your name?
oh, I'm sorry, it's Frances Schwab,
Thank
and I'm on Great Bay Drive West in Leonard's Way. Since we've been living here, which is, we've owned the property for 18 years, this has been an issue. It's been 18 years. At this point, you've just said that a fire truck won't come down. I think we're in a crisis mode. I don't think I want to wait for litigation. I don't want to keep going and all we're doing is we're talking and nothing is happening. And this has been going on and on and on. We need action now. We need safety now.
2 years ago, I sent Karen Anderson an email saying that I was willing to do blood, sweat, and tears and equity work to fix the culverts. And she said, fine, at a mutually agreeable time, let's do that. You know, I'm not going to wait for a mutually agreeable time. I'm going to get the concrete saw and start cutting the pavement, remove them in slabs, tell my neighbors when I'm going to do it so they can get their cars out. You know, as my wife says, it's a crisis. Let's get on with it.
Except, if you go beyond 16 feet, you're trespassing.
So make it 16
Fine,
feet.
arrest me.
It's not going to be me arresting you.
That's fine.
It's not my property rights or the town's property rights. This is the brackets.
I understand.
Their property.
Well, I think
In the
then
court of public opinion in a newspaper, we'll see how far that goes.
I thought they deeded over the property.
To a 16-foot width.
I thought it was 18.
18, but you can only have 16 feet of pavement,
All right, so it's 18 feet.
total width.
Yeah, okay, so it's not
That's the
16
area.
and 14, it's 16 and 18.
Okay.
Oh,
If I may, could I recognize Chip, please?
The 50-foot right-of-way doesn't mean it's all pavement, if that helps people understand. It allows for utilities to travel along it. The pavement usually can be, I think
It's usually
we've swung it down to 22 feet, 24 feet we've done. Just making it wide enough for two vehicles to pass depending on the speed limit. The 50-foot right-of-way is what the town accepts now for all the utilities to go down, so they don't need permission from anybody to cross it, that type of thing. That helps you explain what that's all about.
Thank you.
As well as stacking snow, putting up signs, all of the other things that are attendant to maintaining a road.
Okay, where I'm coming from is that we do have an emergency here, and it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed now. We've got some situations, this is why I asked whether if that road belonged to us, would we have to worry about the brackets? We don't own that road.
If we owned it, we would be able to, within the context of our right-of-way, be able to take all actions. But only within the context of our right-of-way. That's where our property interests end. That's the problem.
So, and this is where I'm coming from. I would like to assume the town owns that road. I have to, you know, this has been going on. One of the reasons that we have such a hard time as a Board of Selectmen is because every year you're getting new members and new members and new members in, and what happens is the ball gets dropped and it doesn't get carried forward. That's the difference between running a business, and you're right, we'd be fired. I would fire anybody for not taking care of this a long time ago too. But you get new selectmen on all the time. They have to be brought up to snuff and up to date and everything else. my goal, before I go anyway, is I want to get this resolved, period. I don't want this to be carried on to the next board or anything else. Safety is my major concern, and as far as I'm concerned, and this is just where I'm coming from, I say we go in with Barraza's Construction's quote and repair that road and do it the right way. And if
whether
the
or
brackets come after us,
Town road or otherwise, it has been designated as an emergency lane, and we would be authorized to do the work because it's an emergency lane to keep the road open for emergency services. Generally, during an emergency, permits from wetlands are gotten after the fact for what you did. Because it's an emergency, you don't have time to wait 6 weeks for the permit process.
okay.
The same thing with temporary easements from all the abutters. You generally, it's an emergency, you're doing the work.
Okay. You know, I know everybody's under time constraints here, so in order to move this forward, I'm going to make a motion that we take Barraza's estimate of $53,225 and move forward with getting that road repaired.
The one culvert there where the barriers are.
Karen, exactly.
What?
I have not released this to the public.
Is that fixing it to the bigger specs, or is that just?
No, we can't increase it. Okay.
No, well, to whatever that permits that you're waiting for.
Yeah, if we can, just a moment. Vaughn has made a motion. What I'd like to do is to see if there's a second. If there's a second, we will each of us talk through this, and we'll also try to tell you what's exactly on this quote so that you understand. Okay, so
I'll second the motion.
there's a second. Now, for the purpose of discussion, we would like to be recognized first to talk about the Barraza quote.
I can read what the quote is.
Sure,
because
let's do that.
I didn't release it. It's replacing that first culvert, and the intent would be to take out the existing metal culvert, replacing it with the same size, but the black plastic PVC that would last 50 years. Remove the existing hot top and subsoil from the first culvert all the way up to the third culvert. Place stabilization fabric, supplement with crushed gravel as needed, fine grade and compact, and then place 2 inches of base hot top. Shim the remaining part of the road from the intersection of east and west to the first structure on the right, 950 feet.
And the quote that we have is for that work.
$53,225.
Okay. Who would like to be
What's the width on that? So that would be, how wide?
16 feet of pavement.
16 feet of pavement.
Who would like to be recognized on the board to discuss the motion? Fine, Jeff.
Just so you understand, we can only replace in kind. If we get the permit and everything goes according to plan, everything may come up and be ripped up, because I think it calls for larger culverts.
Definitely does.
Much higher. That first culvert is planned to be replaced with a 3-foot-high bridge, and it's being designed based on the sea rise levels.
So basically, if we're able to start the next project 6 months down the road, everything we just spent goes in the garbage.
What's the timeline on the permits that you're waiting for?
We should have had it last week.
So ETA,
No idea.
Tuesday is the deadline.
We should hear about it very shortly, because they realize we're running out of time to get contractors to even do it.
so then it would get fixed to what Karen just,
To the Underwood specs? No.
No, we have not asked,
not to the 3-foot.
No, the pending permit is based upon the Underwood plan.
the whole 3-foot thing.
Yeah.
We have not asked for a permit on this. Based on the emergency status, we would do an after-the-fact permit.
So assuming if we get the permit done next week, we would get the bigger culvert,
Right, we wouldn't be able to do this. We would have to
the
do
bigger deal.
what they approve.
Which is better.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
To be honest, it is better.
It'd be a reconstruction of a whole road.
Which is preferable to
If
fix it
I
right.
could, before I take questions from all of you, and we certainly will before we take a vote, I'd like to hear from members of the board, and then we'll certainly give you an opportunity to ask questions. Jim, do you have anything to say?
Well, I would hate to spend $53,000 and then have it ripped up in a month or two. If the DES does grant this, do we have any type of guarantee it's going to happen in the next 30 days or 60 days?
No.
Do you mean from the Barassos we have
No,
time?
just from the Underwood plan that's out there pending.
Well, what that would require is for us to go back to the contractor who is on the Willowbrook project. The two were bid together, and then get a firm price and also a period of time for implementation of that plan.
We have that.
But of course, we'll see how things have held because it's been a period of about 6 months since they bid.
Right. He did, that's right.
The point is, we would have to work with them to negotiate the actual contract, and then they would have to tell us when they could put it into their schedule to get the work done. And we don't know those two factors as of today, right?
Well, we do know the price that he had guaranteed us when we asked for the price extension.
And what is that price?
$218,397.50.
Okay, and that would cover from the intersection of Great Bay East and West all the way past that last culvert.
Correct.
Okay.
Does the emergency factor have anything to do with that?
That's a very good question. If I could, just run through the board first, and then I'll be happy to take questions. Anything else, Jim, before we move on?
No, but other than the fact that we did do something sooner rather than later.
Okay, Chester, your thoughts?
I think we definitely have to do something immediately. It's an emergency situation. I think we do want the safety of these people, no matter what. I'd like to discuss the other two options provided by Barassa. To replace the culvert, shim 530 feet from culvert to the first building on the right for $16,600. Or replace culvert and shim from intersection of east and west to the first building on the right, 950 feet for $21,000. I myself, hoping that we can expedite the final thing, I would rather spend $16,600 today. And if it didn't happen in a year, I'd rather spend that again next year, and I'm still under the 53. And let's get this road done and only waste $16,000 and give safety for the rest of the season. You know, that'll give you a year, I would imagine. A guess, a good guess is about a year on that.
And what does that cover again?
Shim 530 feet from culvert to the first building on the right.
It's what you read.
First
But
building.
it's not fixing the culvert.
Yeah,
that is culvert, yeah, with replace culvert.
Replace the culvert, the
Oh,
one that
sorry.
I bet the salt buses on.
Yes.
All three of those replace that.
First building on the right going in which direction?
I believe it's your garage would be the first building on the right, correct, going into it?
Going
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a garage, it sits all by itself if you've never been down there.
That's my thoughts, and then push to get this resolved, finally. And
I think that building we're talking about is the Hagner building, is that right?
the garage?
Our garage.
Right.
It's on the other side of the road.
Okay, so, now, Vaughn.
Yep, and what you say makes sense to me, because tear up, as you say, Jim, $53,000 in 6 months doesn't make much sense. So, but I want to make sure that road is safe, definitely, in the interim. So I would amend my motion to reflect what Chester said and go with the $16,600 bill. Okay. I would like to just, Paul, get your thoughts on that.
I just wish we would have an idea when actually DES would give us the answer. That would be the easiest thing to make a decision on.
We don't.
We don't.
have that.
I mean,
It's an emergency, that's why we're here.
is it possible to get a steel plate down there for the next week or so until something can happen? There's your safety factor. Add some dirt, put a steel plate down, that makes that culvert area safe.
Okay, yet another option. Okay.
Excuse me, we have a commitment this evening, but I just would like to say something, if I may. We're talking about safety and crisis and everything else, and I just want to remind you, because you don't live where we do, that this is our only egress and ingress. We don't have an option. This is it.
Yep. So your question was, is it feasible to get a plate down there?
When I used to dig up roads,
It's definitely.
yeah, you put, every company has these steel plates, and what they can do, say you have a ditch or something, you put a plate it for so long where people can go over it.
Okay.
And, I mean,
I agree with that, but every rain is just gonna keep undermining what's underneath it, and that's, 16,000 is cheap for the safety.
well, that's what I'm saying, but until they start that project,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, just,
I mean, this needs to get done.
right, but what I'm saying, if we could get a plate on there tomorrow, at least if we have an
Absolutely.
emergency, we can get something down there.
Okay, not to replace it.
Not to replace this,
Yes.
but for the time being.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
That's a good idea.
So, okay. So what we now have really as a discussion in front of us as a result of you changing your motion is to go with the option of replace culvert and shim pave 530 feet from the culvert to the first building on the right, which is the Hagner's garage property, in the sum of $16,600, and determine if we can immediately get a steel plate put down there for safety until such time as the culvert itself could be replaced.
Correct.
Okay. Now, given that discussion, Jim or Chip, any comments based upon that change?
I think it's a good idea.
I think
It's
it's a good
smart.
idea too. And hopefully we'll hear from DES in the next 2 weeks and
Right.
the problem's solved.
Okay.
Hey, Jim, do you second the amendment?
I second the
Thank you.
amendment.
Okay. With that in mind, for the members of the public who are still here, your thoughts on that part of the proposal? Yes, sir.
The term shim pave, what does that mean?
What that means is instead of it being like a finished coat of paving,
Yeah.
it is paving that is put down that is just designed to hold the surface.
Right.
You've seen what they do on roads before they put a new finish coat
It's
on.
gonna be 2 inches.
And it's just designed to be a hot top layer that holds things in place. It's not meant to be wearing for a long period of time.
The base coat.
Is that what was put on east by accident?
Yes, exactly the same as was put on
Yes, it
east.
is.
Yeah.
Yes, Jim.
I understand that some people down in your neighborhood have the trash truck come in for private pickup.
Lonnie Terenzi, and she's at the very end.
Is
I
there
would-
going to,
Until this road is fixed, I would, oil delivery and trash pickup, I would say no.
But you gotta have oil.
You have to allow oil.
Well, I'm saying if they don't, if it's on an emergency, if they got enough for the next month, I would ask them not to make a delivery if you're on automatic delivery.
I just filled my tank. So I'm-
All right, so I'm just saying, we're coming to the, yeah, we're
No, but the
at
trash
You can actually
definitely, they
limit-
turn around in there and
Right,
cut it
but-
down.
bring it out to the end of the
Yeah,
road.
yeah. We'll go,
Until-
we'll take her to the dump.
I'm thinking safety, you're worried about, with fire trucks, garbage truck, oil truck, they're heavy.
Absolutely.
Is there any pressure you can put on the DES to get moving on the permit?
There's somebody in the state you can call to say, this is serious?
That's Tuesday is the deadline for the wetlands permit. We expect to receive by Tuesday the one for Willowbrook, but the engineer had significant questions of DES, raised by DES for the Great Bay Drive West one, and at that point, we were told to put that project on hold. So I expect that the permit will come through Tuesday with additional questions.
Okay. And so,
The
what that means.
concern was there's the ability to do things in the event of an emergency. It doesn't factor into the Underwood project?
Correct. We can't do the Underwood project without getting the wetlands permit, because we've asked for that. That's not an emergency. What we can do is a different, much smaller project under the emergency conditions and get an after-the-fact permit.
So if it comes back with questions and then the questions are answered, what's, again, the turnaround time? Is it 30 days or who knows?
They have 90,
90 days.
and they have taken every single day of it for the Willowbrook.
So we should go camp out on the
And
adults.
part of it
They're
depends on the
understaffed right now.
Yeah, it depends on their questions too. Yes.
I obviously agree with all of you that I think it's a safety issue that we need to make sure we can, I mean, you guys don't live there, I get that. We drive it every day and it's scary. My only concern is that if we do this job to get us going, that the main thing with Underwood is gonna fall by the wayside. Oh, they're fine, they got something, they're good, we'll just forget about it. That's my concern based on how we've dragged our feet for so long on this one.
I would have to say that I
Just
think
my
it
concern.
would be 5-0, that we have no intention of ignoring you.
Yeah.
And I think we also 5-0 understand you would not permit us to ignore you even if we attempted. So, no, that's not our intent whatsoever. We have that project.
But you can see where I was coming from.
Yes, I do, absolutely.
Especially since the brackets are still an issue, and we don't know where they stand, you guys don't know where they stand. For 40 years this has been going on, and we're just at our wits' end. We don't, what if, are you going to do the taking of the property from them? Or and where exactly is it? I know that I guess the brackets told you or Peter Luckman or someone back in 2005 that they owned the road.
Yes.
Where is the proof of that?
That's a long question that I'd be very happy to go through with you.
Why does the town consider their word as law? When we have in hand a document from 1993 that says the town took the road. It's
As I say, if you had about
maddening.
45 minutes, I'd be glad to explain it to you in detail.
I've been reading for days. I know how far back this goes. I do. But that's not our fault. None of it is. And we should be paying the price for the mistakes of all the previous selectmen board meetings, or the planning board, or whomever came before you. Half of them aren't even on this planet anymore.
We got 18 feet to work with, so we're gonna work with it. We need a permit to do that. We do an emergency. We don't place everything in kind and make it at least safer than it is right now. That's the best we can do.
Perfect.
We'll take it.
Do it tomorrow.
Get on it, Paul.
Yes, ma'am. You have a question?
Not really a question, a statement. I'm Susan Wallowitz,
I just,
David's wife. This is really kind of a tragedy because it could have been taken care of so long ago, and we wouldn't be looking at $53,000 or $16,000 or $10,000. It would have been taken care of. There's a document that says the town owns it from 1993. I listened to the board meetings, I think it was March 5th, when the little spur that belonged to the Wendells was taken care of. That happened so quickly. And is that 50 feet wide? It happened so quickly so that a neighborhood could be taken care of in case of an emergency. It happened immediately, and the words that were said were like, oh, we have to take care of this, and we have to take care of the Wendells who want to sell their property. Maybe one of us wants to sell ours. It's just such a tragedy that it's taken so long. I don't understand what the real underlying conflict is. You have a group of people who pay their taxes, who are all good people. They do things for their community. They do things for each other. They come to these meetings. They go to other meetings. And I don't even know what to say. It's just phenomenal. I serve on 2 boards. This kind of thing just wouldn't happen. I don't understand.
Okay, we have a motion on the table, and that is to approve the contract with Verasa Construction LLC to replace a culvert in kind in place and to shim 530 feet from that culvert to the first building on the right, meaning the Hagner's garage property, in the amount of $16,600. And together with the request to them to see if we can have a temporary steel plate put there before the actual culvert work is undertaken in order to provide some immediate measure of safety. That is our motion.
second.
Okay. Is there any other debate? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The vote is unanimous.
Thank you. So this is being done under the emergency lane designation.
Yes. Is there any other item of business to come before our special meeting this evening?
Nope, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Don't forget to shut the
Do you want to get a hold of Tim Roth?
Oh, do you really?
Right.
We should put a rush, see if we can get the plate down there. At least it'll be.
Project.
Not a problem.
What's that?
I think that's-
Yes.